Welcome to the Tangent Podcast. Great to have you aboard. Today, the topic is Karen Read. It's going to be a huge retrial in 2025, but this case has sort of crossed over to another place. And the question we have today, the discussion is going to be, is Karen Read a celebrity? Is she a celebrity? We know she's a defendant, but this case is different. The way it's been received by the public is very different. What happens at the courthouse is different. So we're going to talk about that. I'm Vinny Politan along with Al Wunsch and the radio legend Jonesy. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Tangent Podcast.
It's Vinny and the Tangent, True Crime Podcast. Vinny has the blue eyes, Al cracks the jokes. Jonesy stays behind his shades, entertaining all the folks. It's Vinny and the Tangent, True Crime Podcast. Load up all your comments, hit those super chats. Let's go smash that like button, so we can all have a blast. Vinny, Al, and Jonesy on the job. They're the Sugar Hill Gang of true crime. They're telling stories of days gone by. They take crime and turn into a good old time. It's Vinny and the Tangent, True Crime Podcast.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Special Wednesday Tangent Podcast. Believe it or not.
Yay.
Which is nice, right?
Prince
Nice.
Spaghetti Day.
Prince
That's
Spaghetti
right.
Day.
That's right.
Anthony! By the way, that was in the streets of Boston in the Karen
what he
Read
was,
trial,
Yes.
just outside
Yes.
of Boston. Hey, what I wanted to point out right here off the top, and I think this is important, I think you guys will agree, that today is actually 3 years that John O'Keefe lost his life that day. And I just want to take a moment, and this trial has been, I don't know if it's misconstrued or whatever, but this is a case where no one is attacking the victim. In so many criminal cases, there's an attacking of the victim. That's not happening here. There's just a strong difference as to how he lost his life and who is responsible. But no one is blaming him or has anything bad to say about him. You know, what we've learned about him, and I think this is the biggest demonstration of his character, is the family tragedy and the way he stepped up. So his sister and his brother-in-law, within a short time of each other, both lost their lives. And John O'Keefe is a single bachelor guy, right? And he steps forward and adopts and raises his sister, who has passed away, her 2 children. Not an easy thing, right? A single guy, he's a cop, all of that. And to me, that speaks volumes of the character of John O'Keefe.
You're 100% correct on that. And you know, it's interesting. The question we're starting this show off with is Karen Read a celebrity? And what ends up happening in situations like this is the victim, okay, no one's attacking the victim, but no one is actually honoring the victim. The victim is almost a secondary story that happens with regards to what's going on. It's free Karen Read, this, that, the other thing. But they're not talking about the victim. They don't name the victim. They will call it the victim. Okay. And the one thing I've always given you credit for, Vinny, and that we've always tried on Court TV and especially on our podcast, we name the victims. We want their names out there. You know, Vinny, I've seen that you won't mention certain people's names that are the predators and the defendants and the red rummers and all of that type of stuff. But you're always very much wanting to make sure that the victim's name gets out there. And it's very important that we do that, because that's what this is all about. It's not about the defendant. It's about the life that was taken of the victims. And, you know, starting off the show today, talking about the fact 3 years, a police officer, you know, I know that I get a lot of grief because of my defense of police officers, but, you know, it's like a lawyer. You know, Well, some of our Tangenistas
Oh, the
are
Tanzanians do. Okay.
not necessarily on point with me with regards to my defense of the men and women in blue, but they're the ones running in where we're running out. Okay, and like they say about lawyers, nobody likes a lawyer until they need one. No one likes a cop until they need one, and then all of a sudden there's the praise and everything else. But this man has gone above and beyond.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the thing about, and also being a police officer, and we need him everywhere. But when you're a police officer in a major city, that to me is next level stuff, because the danger and the potential for danger is so much higher when you're in a big police department, whether it's Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, Boston, LA. Things are just a little bit less predictable. If you're a cop in the suburbs, things can happen. If you're a cop out in rural areas, things can happen. But when you're in the city, something's going to happen at some point. So I think that's another testament to his character. What you choose to do, to make a living. We all make a choice. I chose something that's not too dangerous myself. So I really do appreciate someone who steps forward like John O'Keefe did.
And like John O'Keefe, would get up every morning and would not be sure if he's coming home that night. That's the job. That's the profession he chose. And it is also a profession where they work on holidays, they work on weekends. Okay. They're not necessarily home for Christmas. They're not necessarily home for Thanksgiving. Okay. They're out on the street, rain, snow, sleet, or hail. They're out there. And, when a victim is a police officer, a victim is a victim, and I'm not going to in any way denigrate any victim, but a police officer swears an oath of allegiance to the community he's serving. And that's different than anyone else, any other profession. So to see a police officer go down like this, we need to keep his name at the forefront. He should be the celebrity, or the person we're celebrating, the life we're celebrating, and the loss of life.
And if you look at the movements, one of the movements is Justice for John O'Keefe and Karen Read, because the way they are looking at it is that this isn't a case where, because a lot of trials we covered and have covered through the years, there's this thing, blame the victim. Are they going to blame the victim? Are they going to attack the victim? And it happens a lot. It happens a lot, especially in the cases we cover on Court TV. That's not the case here. No one's attacking him. No one's saying he did anything wrong. And from their perspective, the people who believe Karen Read is 1,000% innocent, not just that it can't be proven, but that she's actually factually innocent, they don't believe justice for John O'Keefe is Karen Read being convicted. So they want justice as well. The two sides have a different understanding or belief of what justice in this case is.
Well, I just think that everyone needs to keep the victim, at the forefront, and that I understand there's a need for justice. I don't deny that fact, but just in the end of the day, a man.
Right. But what complicates it is the family. It seems the family obviously believes that Karen Read believes, based on what we've seen and heard and the reactions, believes that Karen Read is responsible. Go ahead, Jonesy. I'm sorry.
See, I think you hit upon something that's been, my mind has been wandering, because I do that. I'm on a tangent of my own all the time. But I also been thinking about how we're talking about how he, was a police officer. And that's great and honorable and all that. But you just hit upon a key word when you said a man. Would he want to be remembered primarily as a police officer? Perhaps. But a man is gone. With a life and with friends and with family and people, not to, take anything away from the fact that he should be honored for being a police officer, but he wasn't red-rummed in the line of duty. So there, like I look at that picture and I see a guy, just some dude who was living his life and is gone.
Yeah. I look at the issue of the police officer, to me, as giving us some insight into who he is and his character, because we didn't know him. Like, we never heard of him until
Right.
he was killed. But to me, the two things are: one, there's a family tragedy, and you step forward to take care of those children.
Yes.
Like he has a brother who was married, who had kids, and they just presumed that they would do it because they're already like a family unit. And John was like, "No, I'm going to do this. I am going to do." That's not easy. Could you imagine being like a young single guy and all of a sudden, boom, you've got two children,
No.
and that is like instant responsibility. First of all, the emotional part of it, of dealing with helping them through their loss of
Right.
mom and dad. Oh, I can't believe these kids have been through it. And then the practicality of parenthood. My goodness, I couldn't raise my kids by myself. Like, he had support, but still, at the end of the day, it's you. It's
Yep.
you. It's you. It's you.
Yep.
Wow. To me, that told me everything I needed to know about him. Right? Just from that, told me what I needed to know about him. So, to me, that's the loss. And then it goes to the children and to the John O'Keefe's parents and his brother as well. Think about all the loss for this family, right? First of all, for the kids, they lose mom and dad. Then they're raised by their uncle, who steps in and covers it for years. And then they lose him. And now grandma and grandpa have to, and they're a little bit older. Now they've got to step in and fill that void. Those kids have been through so much. And then the parents have lost their daughter tragically, their son-in-law. Then they lose their son. That's not easy. That's not easy. All
No.
the funerals. Oh my goodness gracious. This family has been through it. So you take all that, and then you put yourself in their perspective, right? In their mind, where they believe Karen Read is responsible. And then they see everything else that is happening now. And that's where I think some of this is taking place, where the way it's being interpreted, that the support of Karen Read is somehow a movement against John O'Keefe. And I don't think that's what it's about. That's not what I'm getting from it, but I can understand from their perspective, right? From the family's perspective, that, all these people show up for her.
What this exposes is the collateral damage of a victim and the life that they led, and then the lives they leave behind. And that's what you just hit nail right on the head on, was talking about the fact that, this is a horrific tragedy for a family that's already had two horrific tragedies, and kids that have already gone through more loss in a short period of time than most people do in 50 years of their lives. It's, very, very tragic across the board. And we do need to always remember the victims and those that are collaterally damaged due to the death of those victims. It's very important, I think. And I think we've not patting ourselves on the back, but I think that we have in this podcast always tried to keep the victims' names at the forefront, and and bring that up. And Jonesy's right. He's a police officer, but he's a man. And I said, he's a police officer, but he's also a father, and he's also a brother, and he's also a son. There's so many roles that he was playing, and apparently playing quite well.
Yeah.
And we've lost a quality individual, and that needs to be kept at the forefront.
And I know there's going to be vigils and things happening.
Philosophical question, John.
Okay.
Vinny, would you want to be remembered as a broadcaster? Al, would you want to be remembered as an entertainer or a lawyer or a person?
I I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it. And I think it depends upon who is remembering me, right? I think that's the other part of it, because who you are to different people is different, right? So for people who've never met me,
Yeah.
but who have watched me,
Sad. I mean, it may be a part of the path that maybe a part of the path that we chose, but this may be sad, but I want to be remembered as the radio guy.
there's nothing wrong with
That's what
that.
I do.
Nothing wrong with that. You know, I mean, that works out okay. I look to the literature of the Swahili,
Here we go.
okay, and Chinua Achebe, who wrote "A Man of the People," and that's what I want to be remembered as, a man of the people.
All right. Jennifer Lego, Al Wunsch equals the only dude who can make learning historical facts interesting.
Well, thank you. And we got some good ones later on today.
Later on. Okay. So
Mr.
let's-
History.
Yeah, Mr. History. So the topic today is Karen Read a celebrity? Now let me show you, because I experienced this, and maybe you guys will make it up in the springtime up to Boston for a couple of days and just to see what happens. But let me show you, give you a little flavor for exactly what is happening up there. Okay, that's why I asked the question, because I've experienced this, and what's happening up there. Let me just give you a quick question, then I want to hear from Jonesy about what a celebrity is. So, I covered the trial of the woman down in Central Florida who was found not guilty. We know which one we're talking about, involving the little girl, her daughter. I invited years later. So this is the relaunch of Court TV 2019. We invited, and he came in studio. He came to the studio to be a guest on the relaunch of my show on Court TV when we relaunched in 2019. And it was Judge Belvin Perry. He was the judge who oversaw the trial for Kaylee Marie Anthony, her mother. And I had never met him in person. I had seen him sort of in the courtroom when I was in the gallery, right? I had watched him, obviously, for years, and I covered him for years. But then I met him in person, and it was really weird. I had like that moment where I was like meeting like the Pope or something. I never expected it. I was like taken back, and I was like, wow. So that was like the feeling of like meeting someone who in my eyes was like a big deal, sort of a celebrity. And it was because of a trial. Like he had never attempted to be a celebrity, but to me, he was. So I actually got that physical reaction when I met in person for the first time. And I'm like on my set, I get off my desk to say hello. And I was like, whoa, it was really strange because that hadn't really happened many times in my life. I don't know if any times in my life it had ever happened, but it did. And I was like, what was that? And is that the feeling of someone who is a admirer and a fan of someone and their work? And I guess I felt like in my eyes, he was a celebrity. Is that weird? Uh-oh.
Not at all. No. I think the definition of a celebrity in the broad sense is, popularity amongst strangers, and admiration. And on the other side of that is people feel as though they know you, that 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 you're not just Vinnie Politan, the television guy. You're their friend, um, and they care about your life, and they may involve themselves too much in your life. Let me ask you to this: with all the trials that you've seen, have you ever seen somebody who didn't come into a case already a celebrity, like Michael Jackson or something like that, get that kind of reaction from a crowd, like applause and
Never.
they're going nuts?
Never, ever, ever. No, I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
And
I've
what
never seen it. I'm
what
not even.
what
not
brought
even
her to
close.
that level? The media, or
No,
her
well,
own
Social media is really
Oh.
the issue that comes into play that wasn't around when the Menendez brothers were on trial, or even when OJ was on trial, and when some of these other big red room trials were going on. They didn't have that call to arms. I mean, now you have, and we're up in Massachusetts, so of course you've got the Paul Reveres that are just saying, getting the word out to show up, come here, and let's do something, and let's, and you're meeting other people that have the same interests that you have, and no one's had that before. I mean, this is going to become, I think, more of the mainstay on some of these trials, and the celebrity value, yeah, to me it's very limited. And I don't, I there's got to be a new phrase as to celebrity. I don't think that what's going on with her constitutes being a celebrity, but there is no other word that we can use. I'm not aware of anything, and I have looked it up to see if there was another word that could be used on it. I always remember the phrase 15 minutes of fame, which everyone thinks was said by Andy Warhol, which it was not. It was in a brochure that he had put out regarding paintings that he had done of Marilyn Monroe, but he's not, and he had admitted that he's never said that, but everyone attributes that to him. But that's what we're seeing here. And the 15 minutes becomes an hour because of the fact that we have this ability to get the troops out via all of these social mediums.
Right. And in this case, there was a local movement. It was started by Turtle Boy, who's a local blogger, journalist, YouTuber, live streamer, whatever you want to call him. But he has a very big presence on social media and on YouTube as well. And a lot of these folks are his followers, but it grew from there as well. It expanded beyond that and multiplied and multiplied. Now, because of social media and people having seen the case and studied the trial and seen what happened on Court TV, have listened to podcasts, watched some mini-series, docu-series. They also are part of this movement and make their way there. This is an interesting point. Thanks again, Jennifer Lego. Sloppy investigation. Absolutely was sloppy. I agree 10,000%. Carla Lafong, this will be the second celebrity, though, by the way, that will get the same level of love. Luigi Mangione. Vinny, wait until you see Luigi Mangione goes to trial. You ain't seen nothing yet. The difference will be, though, Luigi's never going to be a free man. So he's never going to walk into a courthouse. He's never going to be at a local restaurant. He's never, you know what I mean? None of that is ever going to happen. He's locked up and he's not going anywhere. He'll never be a free man. He will be, I believe he'll be convicted. I mean, it's on video. But he's never going to, like Karen Read has been free this whole time. So that I think that adds to the fact that people can see her and she can interact with them. And you get moments like we see here outside of the courthouse, but you also get the other part of celebrity, right? When you're out at a restaurant and you recognize oh my goodness, that's so-and-so from wherever, right? And I think she's probably getting that reaction as well when she goes out.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, as far as
I don't like using the phrase celebrity. And maybe what we need to do is put
What's
our
the
brains.
word? What's the word?
That's what I'm saying. We got to put our brains together and come up with a new word. We could probably get in the dictionary if we come up with a new word, okay, for this type of phenomenon. Then maybe we'll get the word of the year by Webster's. Okay, maybe you, me, and Jonesy will be credited in Funkin' Wagnalls.
Well, I mean, like she's famous. She has a level of fame, right? She's
Fame or infamy?
well,
See, you hit upon it when you say level of fame, I think, because there are places she can go across the United States and beyond where she can have dinner and nobody's going to bother her, nobody's going to know her. She is a celebrity, however. She's not like a Martha Clark. She's not going to get like a national talk show on radio out of this. She might get a local talk show.
But to me, it's almost like a real reality star. Like reality stars they're doing television. They're like actors, sort of, right? Maybe it's more like a social, like social media influencers are celebrities now. Reality stars are like, I think we used to equate celebrity with TV and movie star, right?
Yeah,
right.
Or sports star. Then and if the celebrity is from sports, we'd call them a sports celebrity, not just a celebrity. So I think the world we live in now, the definition of celebrity is a little bit larger and encompassing. I think we have the view growing up when we grew up that a celebrity was a movie star or the TV star. Oh, there's a celebrity. They have to be an actor or a game show host, right? But now I think in the world we live in, where we are seeing things on our phones all day, one of those things ends up being like a trial. And I think it turns you into a celeb. How about politicians? Are politicians celebrities?
They have a degree of celebrity dumb, if that's a word. So yeah.
Well, I mean, something that we did a show about a long time ago, and Jonesy was always enamored by John Gotti. Was he a celebrity? The Dapper Don, was he considered to be a celebrity? But he was a red rummer. Okay,
right.
I mean, so he was given celebrity status for all the wrong reasons. Back in the '60s, if you take a look at the movies,
celebrity status is so. Do you believe celebrity comes with a level of status that you're automatically good? Like, does a celebrity have to be good?
No. Well, that's what I wonder. I wanted to bring this up. I mean, in the '60s was the advent of what was called the anti-hero. Okay, the movies that that the line between hero and anti-hero was blurred. The old Clint Eastwood movies where he was the gunslinger and things along those lines. It was a very, very blurred line. You take a look at the movies with Peter Fonda and all of these things, Easy Rider, all of these types of movies were guys that couldn't tell if they were good or bad. They kind of rode that fine line, and that started us on this celebrity status of the anti-hero. So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, John Gotti is an anti-hero. People liked him because he put firecrackers up and gave to people on the streets in Little Italy and things along, and in Queens where he lived the neighborhood.
It went beyond that, because I wasn't the recipient of any of those things, and I was a fan. It was his charm and presentation in public. The way he carried himself, the things that he would say. I know he did all those things, but I wasn't a recipient of that yet I felt as though I was a fan.
Yeah, and you aren't the recipient of some of the bad things he did either, thankfully.
I was never thrown in the back of a trunk while at a diner, no.
Yes. Or cement shoes or anything else along those lines.
Dark Hemlock, I wouldn't say she's a celebrity. I would say she's a social figure.
Well, that's an interesting phrase.
I like that phrase. You
know what? That's we're getting, Vin, we're coming up with this word. I am going to spend the next few weeks putting together a new word that we're going to come up with, and maybe
sniglet?
even a shirt,
Are you
even a
doing
shirt.
a sniglet? Are you doing a sniglet?
That's exactly right. The old sniglets. But we would, and we'll get a shirt out of it, Vin. Gosh
We'll
darn it.
turn it into a shirt.
We'll turn it into a shirt and then
One
get
of
it
the favorite-
into Webster's.
One of the favorite shirts I ever got, Lisa Bloom, who was my co-anchor, gave me a shirt that said, "I'm huge in Japan." That was a great shirt. That was a great shirt. All right. So, by the way, a great conversation taking place. I wanted to acknowledge Gretchen on Facebook, as well as Wanda Enderton and Gretchen Phillips Fisher on Facebook. They gave us some nice stars over there, and with the software I'm running, it doesn't pop up over here, so I don't get that. So Ashley, our moderator over on Facebook, give me a heads up on who's showing us love on Facebook. So we appreciate that.
Help me, Wanda. Help
yeah.
me, Wanda.
So, but here's the question now.
What happened today in?
Oh,
history?
Really?
I don't know.
Civil War to civil rights and all the revolution fights. World War I and World War II. I'll always knows who is who. It's this day in history. This day in history. History. Now let's listen to his story.
All right. What's the story today, Al?
First, I want to offer birthday wishes.
Are we doing birthdays now?
Well, we're going to do this one. William Claude Duncanfield. Okay. You may know him as W.C. Fields. Okay. He was born on this day in 1880. He died on Christmas Day in 1946. Probably one of the funniest comedians you will ever see. I highly recommend that you take a look at some of his old movies. The man was incredible. The quotes that he had in history are just outrageous. And the movies that he had these great character names. Like in one movie, and you can't cheat an honest man. His name was Larson E. Whipsnade, and it's larceny, okay, but it's Larson E. Whipsnade. And then the other movie, and the bank dick, he was known as Egbert Souse, but it was spelt S-O-U-S-E, like souse. So everyone would call him Souse, which was like another term for being a drunkard.
Now, was he really a heavy drinker, or was that?
Yes, he was a heavy drinker. He was a heavy drinker, and some of his greatest lines were all attributing to that. And he would say, it's important to get up with a smile. Then you can lose it quickly, go forward for the rest of the day. But in his movies, he would always talk about the fact that he liked to drink. And so, like in one movie, he was saying, "It's like, officers, why are you bothering me? You should be out there trying to find the contemptible scoundrel who stole the cork from my lunch." So I mean, like lines like that. And in My Little Chickadee, when he's about to be hung, okay, he says, they ask him if he has any last request, and he goes, "I'd like to see Paris before I die." And then they shook his head. He goes, "Well, Philadelphia will do." So the man was unbelievable. Nobody, really can appreciate his movies, and the younger generation doesn't watch it. It's just an absolute travesty. And on this day in 1919, the 18th Amendment was ratified. Do we know which one the 18th Amendment was?
18th. We never talk about the 18th Amendment.
Well, that's a good reason why, because it was called Prohibition.
Oh.
And what is perfect is my good friend W.C. Fields had this to say: "Once during Prohibition, I was forced to live for days on nothing but food and water." So that is a perfect quote for Prohibition. On this day in 1845, okay, Edgar Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven was published for the first time. And something that I know is near and dear to the three of us, on this day in 1936, the first members of the Baseball Hall of Fame were announced.
Oh,
And,
very
it
nice.
was Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, Honest Wagner, Christy Mathewson, and the big train, Walter Johnson.
And were they all unanimous?
Yeah, they were all unanimous. And not to miss something that has been celebrated and commemorated this week. This is the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz concentration camp by the Soviets. A horrendous thing. We all need to remember this. We all need to study this so that this does not happen again. Now, so that's part of my true crime. But the other true crime aspect that I want to discuss today is on this day, okay, was the in 1958 was the red rum D-pen of Charles Starkweather. Charles Starkweather is the man who coined the phrase spree killer.
Oh, wow.
Okay. He and his 13-year-old girlfriend, he was 19 at the time, red rummed 11 people, including her parents and her 2-year-old sister, and then just would execute anyone that they came in contact with. So this man was just horrific. Now at the trial, okay, his girlfriend was the youngest woman to ever stand trial on first-degree murder. Okay, she was 14 at the time.
Wow.
They ended up not giving her the D-pen. They gave her life in prison. She served 17 years and of a life sentence and was paroled. And she's still alive today. She's 81 years of age. Starkweather, on the other hand, got a date with the electric chair, and he gave no last words. But his last meal, I know we always like to hear about this, was the most unique out of any of the last meals I have researched to date. He asked for a tray of cold cuts.
Just a tray.
Just a tray of cold cuts.
No bread to make a sandwich.
Not just the cold cuts. He just
No
wanted
mayo, no mustard.
there were no condiments. No condiments. There was no other bread. It was a tray of cold cuts. And in my study, okay, I have not found anyone who's even come close to that. I mean, generally, most of the people go with steak, but some go with lobster, some go with shrimp.
Right.
But you never see just a tray of cold cuts, which led me to ask this question. I'm going to throw this out to you, Jonesy, and then I'm going to throw it out to the Tangenistas out there. What would be your last meal, Jonesy? What would you ask for? If you're going to be old Sparky, what would be your last meal?
Well, as I've said before, I would be too nervous to eat. But if I had to submit a last meal, my favorite meal is the traditional Thanksgiving dinner. So I would have the turkey with the gravy and the stuffing. Stuffing's the best part, and the mashed potatoes and such.
Vinny?
But again, I'd be too nervous to eat.
Oh. Yeah, there would definitely be some good pizza. Not that there's bad pizza, but like high-end pizza for sure. I'd probably get a little. I have to get the mixture. I have to get the chicken, the chicken, the meatballs, and the eggplant.
Okay. So the Sunday dinner. So you got the Sunday. You got basically the grandma's sauce with the aubergine with that.
And what I might do is I might take the pizza and dip it into the, put the eggplant on top. I'd have a party with that.
A veritable
Jones is going
I would go with.
You shouldn't put things on pizza.
I would go with.
I'm dipping.
With Stretch's Chicken Savoy from the Belmont Tavern in Belleville, New Jersey. I would definitely go with that, and Hiram's hot dog with sauerkraut and mustard and the red relish. Those would be.
If I had a hot dog, it would probably take me before
So-
before
So a friend of mine,
Well, but the chicken Savoy is the most incredible dish. The
a
Belmont
friend of
Tavern.
mine,
Jonesy?
yes, a friend of mine's was the nephew of Stretch,
Oh.
and Stretch, you know how North Jersey Italian guys, like Italian Americans, like to talk about, the mafia, which doesn't exist. Stretch, there are so many cool things, and I guess I should use the word allegedly. Stretch was allegedly involved in a lot of things, including that Newark famous barbershop incident. The Red Rum. You would know the name of the guy.
Murder
Al.
Incorporated?
Very famous.
You mean Albert Anastasia?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
If that was if that's the guy who got it in Newark. But anyway,
No, but that wasn't in
you know-
Newark. I'm sorry, that wasn't in Newark.
okay.
Maybe you talk about Dutch Chips.
So Stretch was raised by his uncle because there were too many kids in the family, and apparently that was a thing. Like you'd go off and like live with your uncle. Stretch didn't have a birth certificate, like a real proper name. So one of the reasons that Stretch escaped his entire life without any kind of like punishment for alleged wrongdoings was the fact that he actually didn't exist.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry I went. I'm sorry I went. On,
I'll
I'm
tell
sorry
you
I
this.
went on this tangent. but
Deborah
it was
Demurick.
fun to me.
Yeah, has the 2024 word of the year, brain rot.
Brain rot. Okay. So we can do better than that. We're doing better than that, guys. But let me just say this, that the Belmont Tavern was a place where I would see Vinny's father every now and then, because it was right near the federal courthouse. So you would have the federal judges sitting in one area. You would have members of the non-existent mob in another area. And then you'd have sports celebrities in another area. And all of them just eating. And it was a cash only business. They had the oilcloths on the table. And they, and the wine selection was red or white. And you go, well, what kind? They just go, no, it's either red or it's white. And that was the wine selection. And it came in a pitcher. So like, there wasn't even a carafe. It was in a pitcher. Okay. So this was the place to eat. Phenomenal food. So I say to the Tanginistas out there, what would be your last meal?
All right, we'll take
Curious.
a look. I've got some of them popping up here. Laura Delaney, some may see Karen Reed as a celebrity, but I wish more people would show support for John O'Keefe outside that courthouse. I think that's going to happen in the second trial. I think the blue movement, pink, Karen Reed, the supporters wear pink, but it seemed by the end that there started to be some people showing up wearing blue. I think that number will be a little larger in the retrial, but will not come close to the sea of pink that will be there.
Just one other thing on this Charles Starkweather thing that I want to get some opinion on this. Okay, well, first of all, he was the inspiration for the movie Natural Born Killers. So if anyone's seen that movie, that whole thing was based on Starkweather and his 14-year-old girlfriend. But Starkweather was buried in the same cemetery as 5 of his victims. Should that be allowed?
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Small town, right?
Yeah, because like you see, you had the situation even with we brought up last time with Bundy, that he was his ashes were spread in the mountains of Washington, where he had 4 of his victims.
Yeah.
He had
I think it's a slippery slope when you start denying people burials.
Yeah, I think so as well. Because I don't know the tradition of burial, but it's somewhat spiritual for some, right? And to deny somebody access, no matter what the reason, just kind of seems wrong to me. Now, obviously, it's hard to defend this guy, but
how hard is it for the family to go by that tombstone, to see their mother, father, 2-year-old nephew that had been executed by this madman, and to put him in that same place.
I get it. I get that part of it, but I also know the way society works, and we end up on a slippery slope where today it's, well, this person, did the ultimate, right? I get that. But then the line starts to move and it'll be like, oh, this person wasn't nice to him, or this person is the wrong political party, or this person did this or that. And then we're gone. So
That's interesting.
because the same thing happens with free speech. I saw it happen in this country and I was shocked. So it can happen. Deborah's going with the rare roast beef, Yorkshire pudding, and
Ooh.
white koyo. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
I don't
Koeoi.
I don't even know what Yorkshire pudding is.
Oh, it's like a muffin or something like that. It's interesting.
Sounds fancy.
It's fancy. It's schmancy. It's fancy schmancy.
Fancy.
You know what the
Why I
fancy
don't know.
But I understand that it is a slippery slope, and where do you then say this one can't be buried here or whatever? But as we recall, and Thomas Paine was not able to be buried in a Quaker cemetery. The Quakers refused for him to be buried, and we discussed this last show. And he had to be put onto a farm, and then eventually was disinterred and was brought over to England, and now no one knows where his body is.
Well, there's precedent for that because there are denominational cemeteries. Like, sometimes I'll drive by like an area like in Kearney, North Arlington. There's a Catholic cemetery, there's a Presbyterian cemetery, then there's a Jewish cemetery. And somewhere in my head, I think to myself, how strange is this that even in death, we're separated? And I know it's for religious reasons or whatever, but like, in the grand scheme of things, it just seems
We're not separated. You can join. You can become a Catholic.
well, yes, but what I mean is even in death, like you go over there, you go here.
Right. Lily Blue going with the full English breakfast. I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, that's like bangers and eggs. I got to tell you, an English breakfast. The remarkable thing about the English breakfast is that they cook sausage in lard. I mean, isn't that
that's why it's so good?
Oh,
I mean, it's horrible for you, but it's probably really good.
it's just quicker to open a vein and just stick it in there, okay? Because it's just quick.
So we were of Scottish descent. My grandparents came over in like 28 or something like that of the last century. And Kearney had a lot of Scottish butchers and bakers, Kearney, New Jersey, very Scottish town. I never did the haggis. So I did the haggis once for a TV show on the History Network, but that's another story for another day. We would have the traditional, I don't know if it's traditional, but we would have a Scottish breakfast that we'd get at the butcher, which was sausage, and they were like block sausages, like rectangular. And you would, along in the frying pan, you would make what was called black pudding, which I eventually learned was called blood pudding, and I didn't realize it. Yes. I don't eat weird things like that. I don't eat organs, but to this day, I will eat black pudding because it's the one thing that disgusts me, food that disgusts me, that I tell myself, you loved it when you were a kid when you didn't know what it was. But we would have black pudding and sausage for breakfast sometimes on a Saturday as a treat.
There you go. Frankie Figs going with the Monkberry Moon Delight. I don't know what that is.
What?
Is that the breakfast, or maybe she's answering another question? I don't know, but
I would generally go with the monkfish. I would like the monkfish, please.
Is it moved out? I don't think it's breakfast.
It's the monkfish fish. All right. So now going back to the celebrity status thing, though,
wait, one moment, because as you know, Frankie Figs is one of our moderators.
Order in the chat. Order in the chat. Don't dare attack. We've got order in this chat. The Mod Squad is on the job, helping us to keep it clean. The Mod Squad is on the job, always so nice and never mean. So let's give it up and say hello to the three amazing ladies running the show. Gen X, let's make some noise. Frankie Figs, let's clap our hands. And Jennifer Subay, let's raise the roof. Order in the chat, order in the chat. Don't dare attack, we've got order
All
in
right.
this chat.
Still one of the most popular of the theme songs, the Mod Squad, Gen X, Frankie Figs, Jennifer Stubbe, doing amazing work. Gen X reminding everyone that you make sure you're on the live chat, not the top chat. And then we've got Ashley Bouchard over on Facebook. All
Yo,
right.
yo, in the
By the
house.
way, we're getting a lot of Italian food here, like
Really?
Joe Biffle, Brajol,
The Brajol. Yay.
the Brajol. Laura Wagner going for some
They
crab
might not,
cake.
you know what though? The problem with they may not give you the Brajol. You know why, Vin? Because you got to tie it. You're not allowed to have any rope in there. So you'd have a hard time keeping the Brajol together because the rope would not be able to be there by any stretch of the imagination.
And getting back to the
Do you
topic
think
of the
they would
day,
let you have flaming sausage?
Yes. Flambe. That's what I'd want bananas
Yeah.
Foster.
shock and horror. Free Karen Reed chanted justice for Officer O'Keefe right along with the blue shirts. So that's what makes this a little different, right?
Yeah.
This isn't the victim versus the defendant. It is the defendant versus the prosecutor. It's the defendant versus the investigator. But as I pointed out, for the family, just take a moment, think what this is like for the family. It's not easy for them. It's really difficult for them because they believe Karen Reed is responsible, and the trial didn't, seeing the evidence, everything didn't change their minds. So from their perspective, whatever you think about it, from their perspective, what they are experiencing is very unusual for a victim's family.
That's true.
Very unusual. So, you have to have, I think, another level of sympathy for them. You don't have to agree with their perspective on the case, but I think what you do have to have is some understanding of where they are, right?
What
they're going
so
through.
if we turn our attention back to what was it, the Black Swan trial, which was the
Ashley
one
Benefield.
right, was the one with the the women and people were picketing on behalf of her and had her daughter out there with signs, a daughter whose father was red rummed. Okay, now the jury found that it was the mother that did it.
It was actually it wasn't a red rum. It was a slaughter of man.
okay. Well, it was still someone is no longer alive.
Right.
Yeah,
Unalive.
Papa ain't home no more. He's not going to be walking her down the aisle at our wedding day. So that type of a situation, I think we all saw that as being exploitive and horrendous that would happen. This is a very fine line in where we're going on this with regard to celebrity status, and is the celebrity status fleeting? Because let's take a look. I mean, anyone who's survived any of these major, the trials of the century, don't go anywhere afterwards. I mean, you take a look at the actors that have gone.
But we've never had a defendant with this number of passionate supporters who don't support from afar. They show up at the courthouse. They're online every day. It's different, Al. No one ever had this. Even the Menendez brothers didn't have this. They had a few people who believed in them. They had a bunch of people who believed in them, but it wasn't passion like this. This is next level stuff. This is next level. And I've never seen it. I think we are seeing it a little bit with Luigi, but he's not free. He's locked up. That's why this is such a unique case. And this is why, for the first time, I am believing that a retrial will be more compelling, more intense than the first trial. Usually we show a trial once on court TV. There's a hung jury. We come back for the retrial. It's anticlimactic.
Usually, you're right, because the prosecution knows what they did.
We saw it. We did it. We did this already. But this is different, and
But
a lot
that's
of it
right.
has to do with people's reaction to a defendant charged with what she's charged with, and believing, like really believe. They don't just believe; they know the facts of the case, like inside out. I have never covered a story, a case where this level of viewership is so intimately involved with every motion that is filed, every piece of discovery, every bit of testimony, and then all of the things that happen outside related to all the witnesses and everything. It is mind-boggling how invested people are, and that's what makes it different.
But let's all right. So let's go on to that aspect. The retrial. Okay, I know you and I have a little bit difference of opinion because we discussed this on television. With
Once in a while, Al is wrong.
with what the prosecution has been doing in this case, where they have been moving very aggressively, going after experts and basically trying to get experts out of the case. And the newspapers are all saying, well, the prosecution has been thwarted in their effort to get the dog bite specialist out, and this, that, the other thing.
They lost.
But that's not, to me, that's not a loss. To me, it was ingenious, and I'll tell you why. Any opportunity you have to put somebody on the stand and it's got no ramifications whatsoever gives you an arsenal to build upon at the time of trial. Now he has the trial testimony of the dog bite expert. He's got the cross-examination he did with regards to the Daubert, which is whether or not an expert qualifies. And he's got all of that information now. And he's got that information in such a way that it's going to make a tremendous splash when it goes up in front of a jury. And the judge hit the nail on the head. Well, it's, it's going to go to what the jury gives it to the weight of what the testimony is. Okay. But the interesting thing is this, and, we disagreed that, he played his hand, and you said, I wouldn't have played your hand, and this, that, the other thing. When they brought up about the fact that there was no dog DNA on the body, and that they took
that was found,
right? But there was then the mouth of the dog, they did a mold of it, and that it didn't match, and then this other thing, and then
it didn't match. I didn't hear anything about it not matching.
Well,
what I heard was that the expert wasn't interested in seeing it. Anything from a prosecution expert.
But and then also that she never visited the scene. Okay, and you said, well, now what's she going to do? She's going to visit the scene. That's irrelevant. Whether or not she goes to the scene now is going to mean nothing. In fact, it's going to be, well, wait a minute. So in other words, you said that wasn't important, but then you went to go to the scene to see it? Why? Why would you go to, well, you never asked why, but you went to see the scene after you said to me twice, it meant there was no wherewithal to see it. It really affects a juror. It really does. The guy is putting together a great retrial case. It really is. And I'm not taking.
I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of a prosecutor that's trying to limit information in front of a jury. That's what defense attorneys do. That's what defense attorneys do, and defense attorneys generally do it in 99% of the cases I cover because their client is guilty, and they're trying to limit the evidence so they have a better chance of trying to raise a reasonable doubt by limiting what prosecutors can put in front of the jury. I've never seen it where the prosecution is trying to limit the defense from putting information in front of the jury.
I'll say this. I would, and he probably never admit it, but I almost would guarantee he knew it was not going to be kept out, but he got another bite at the apple that he wouldn't have been able to get, at the time when it meant something, which is when the jury is there. It is another opportunity.
Why all the gamesmanship?
Because it's a trial. Of course, it's a gamesmanship.
Not for the prosecutor. It's about the truth, my man.
And
It's
it
about
is the
the
truth.
truth.
And it
It's
is the
not
truth.
about
You wanna
gamesmanship.
get-
Gamesmanship is criminal defense.
you say to me, it's expert versus expert, okay? Because there's no eyewitnesses, so it comes down to expert versus expert.
There's
Why would you not
eyewitnesses.
want? Why would you not want the opportunity to get ammunition against the other side's expert? And that is what they're doing.
There's now, I believe, he was a prosecutor at one point, but he's really a defense attorney now. There's a defense attorney prosecuting the case in the DA's office where they have a full staff of DAs. And I don't understand why they have to pay extra money to bring in an outsider to try the case. And he's a defense attorney, so he's going to try it with that mindset. And the ethical obligations of a defense attorney and a prosecutor couldn't be more different. And I don't like when prosecutors are there. I'm here to win. No, you're here to get to illuminate the truth in the courtroom because you believe the truth is that the person that you've charged is guilty. So you just need to illuminate the truth. The gamesmanship and the, oh no, the jury can't see this, the jury can't see that, we've got to limit that, we've got to limit this. No, they saw it in the first trial, but they're not allowed to see it in the second trial. To me, that's gamesmanship. That is not about seeking the truth.
I don't.
And Jonesy agrees 10,000%. I can tell by the look in his eyes.
Absolutely.
Well, I got to tell you that I think it's an ingenious move to get any
It's a
expert,
move. I get it. I agree that it's a move.
because it's giving you the ability to undermine their expert.
Does
Okay?
it get you?
I mean,
closer
I
to the
thought
truth?
this expert. I thought the dog expert was shaky to begin with.
Well,
all
then
right?
The truth.
I really
the
did,
truth
but
should not
you know
be
what?
the truth should not be that difficult to uncover.
But
Al?
here's the problem. But here's the thing. What's the truth? No one was there. No one witnessed this. So the only truth.
No.
we have-
Wait. The prosecution has to believe the truth is what they've alleged. If they don't
course.
know, then they need to drop the case
But
right
what I'm
now.
saying
They
to
don't
you
know
is
what
that-
happened.
It's a battle of the experts. The state's experts say she did it. The defense experts, what a surprise, says she didn't do it. Okay. So then the move is, how do you undermine their experts and prop up your experts?
With the
Because that's
truth.
the only way to get to the truth.
With the truth. You
what
undermine
I'm
them
saying.
with the truth.
And bringing in a special prosecutor in light of the caseloads that these prosecutors have.
Oh, stop. Caseload, schmaceload. Stop that.
very, very difficult.
Stop that. They get paid. They get paid.
And you want them to be able to. You want them to be able
And the
to
guy who
do
did it the
right
first
thing.
time is there. He's there. He didn't get fired. They took the case
They
away
want-
from the guy who tried it the first time.
Yeah,
He didn't
but-
get
but you know
fired.
what?
He's not
Wait a
trying
minute,
another.
wait a minute.
He's
That's
going to be
not
sitting
fair.
in the courtroom during
That's
this.
That's not fair, because you know what? Let me tell you. I don't know. It's very, very difficult to do a retrial from either side. Okay, it's you've been involved in trials. You know how draining it is. I mean, a trial is the absolute, especially a trial with this
And
kind of
go work
publicity.
for an insurance company and do depositions if you don't want to try the case.
I'm not
Give me
saying
a
you don't want to
break.
try it, but it's very difficult. It takes a hell of a lot out of you to try it.
Yeah. It's
Okay?
cost
And
everybody
especially
more
if it
money.
goes on for a long time in a case that has the
Why
ramifications.
do you need a hired gun? Why do you need a hired gun to prove the truth? By the way, Lauren, Katie, Vinny, everywhere I go, people are stopping me saying how they love my Vinny Originale shirt.
Oh,
And
Which one?
Which one? I think she has the allegedly,
Nice.
the allegedly shirt.
Well, just so you know, Eve St. Politan is getting ready to. We're going to be unleashing our Viva La Tanginistas very
yes,
soon.
yes, that'll be happening soon. I just haven't had time to load it into the store. Al sent me a beautiful design. I've got to get it into the store. We had all the workers in the Vinny Originale store are on strike this week.
I thought they were maybe visited by ICE in your basement or something.
That's right. There was a raid at the Vinny Originale store, and they took everybody back to Italy. They all went back to Italy.
I saw that barge being put together, and they were just like, it was like 3 hero sandwiches and a cup of coffee, and they were sending them back to
Yeah.
Corleone.
And by the way, if your Originale comes with tomato sauce on it, you can send it back. We'll get you a new one. I got the hiccups. I
That's
never got the
funny.
hiccups on the air before. I got the hiccups.
I'm glad I was able to to help that out.
Yeah, Gringa. I believe the Crash Daddies and Dr. Russell, free Karen Reed. Crash Daddies were the experts originally hired by the feds, who then testified for the defense in that case. And Dr. Russell is the dog bite expert. Thank you so much. Gringa in the house today. Let's see.
Gringo with the gringos.
So Ashley Bouchard saying there's 4 ladies trying to get a remix on the Mod Squad song. That might be difficult to get a remix done there. We'll see.
Ooh.
It's a process.
We can maybe starting to do some mashup.
Here's Wetty for Yanetti. That's the longest song about mods I've ever heard.
That's the only song about mods I've ever heard.
That's not true. There was the theme from the Mod Squad.
There's a theme from the Mod Squad. And that was the short version, and I did cut it off. There's an actual long version. I don't know if I've posted it yet, but it will be on the best of the best of CD. That will, maybe I should I should do an 8-track.
Oh, that would be
I
good.
think people would buy that.
So
You will buy anything.
many years ago, Cheap Trick released their new release in the early 2000s on 8-track. And apparently it was a publicity a thing, because what they did was later that year, they took an ad out at the end of the year saying Cheap Trick, the #1 selling 8-track of 2003 or whatever it was.
Brilliant. I like those guys. They made it to the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Zeldabot, Karen Reed is a celebutante, or maybe an agent of change.
Agent of change.
Agent of change.
How about that?
Oh, I'm thinking that might not be a bad epitaph for me. Agent of change.
Agent of change. Meanwhile, Allie 90211, not 90210, but 90211, which must be
Neighborhood over.
must be right next door to Beverly Hills. I hope you're safe with all the fires.
Hopefully it's not on the other side of the tracks.
Yeah, the bad side of Beverly Hills.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh.
Bananas Foster. I don't know what Bananas Foster is. Is
Oh
that
my
the one
God.
you light on fire?
Okay, Bananas Foster it's butter, it's like brandy, okay, and it's bananas, and they cook it up right in front of you, and it's a flambe.
It's a flambe. Okay, so it is the one they oh wow, this is
Serve it over ice cream.
Here is the last thing I would ever eat, but Cat TV, this is the final meal. Like, I would never even consider eating this. Lamb and okra stew.
Eeh.
Ooh.
Now,
I'm a big fan of them.
Bah.
I used to have lamb chops when I was a kid,
I love
and
lamb.
and there was lamb chop night, and then like every other week it would be pork chop night. I so much preferred the pork chops over the
Yeah.
lamb chops.
Oh,
I
The
never
pork
had lamb.
chops you could put in the applesauce.
Oh, pork
Right.
chops. and
Isn't that
apples.
swell?
But the lamb, I don't eat lamb anymore. I know people love it, and that's
Love it.
that's the big thing for the cocktail hour, right? Or what do they call them, the lollipops or whatever.
Well, if you go to an Indian restaurant, lamb is very, very lamb vindaloo is one of my favorite dishes, along with goat vindaloo.
See, I've got this weird thing where, I eat steak, I eat pork chops, I love chicken, but there are certain creatures, and it's wrong on my part, because
Ducks.
right,
Ooh,
I won't,
love
I think a Daffy Duck. I won't eat a duck. I won't touch a lamb, which is like
Duck
that's
season,
my
rabbit
problem,
season. Duck season. Shoot me now. Duck is phenomenal. I mean, there is nothing better than going to having a Peking duck dinner is unbelievable.
So
Or French.
for those of you who are familiar with New Jersey, I went to Rutt's Hut several times in the last year, and Al would always tell me to order the duck. Rutt's Hut
Yes.
is famous for its hot dogs, rippers as they call them. They fry them, deep fry them until they rip open, or you can get the creaminator, which is like that's extra well done, and it's known for that kind of thing. And Al tells me to order the duck.
I will tell you this, that the duck at Rutt's Hut is an absolute phenomenal dish. I get the
That's
hot dog as the appetizer,
Right.
go right to the duck. Main course duck.
My go-to order is French fries with gravy, one Ripper, and one barbecue roast beef sandwich. There's nothing barbecue about it. It's a slice of roast beef on a hamburger bun that's saturated in brown gravy. Yummy, yummy.
Dog well, fry well, duck. Perfect.
Sally Vella, it's incompetent courthouses and judges digging in their heads saying they're not crooked the whole time, more and more crooked.
What?
I believe Sally believes that Karen Reed is not guilty. But yeah, Sally, very passionate. This is the passion I'm talking about.
All
This
right.
is the passion. I don't see this passion anywhere. I've seen this passion to convict people. I saw that down in Orlando, Florida. That's another one. Is that a celebrity? Is that person a celebrity?
No, because there's no longer on the spectrum. No one sees that person anymore. They tried to kick start something with her and went nowhere.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have to be popular to be a celebrity?
Well, there's a song about that in a movie that's out right now, going popular. But
Oh, I hate that song.
you don't necessarily have to be popular to be a celebrity.
You have to have fans to be a celebrity.
Well,
You see, this is getting more complicated, isn't it? That's what makes it different. She has, you can call them supporters, but when I watch that scene where they're cheering her and everything, those are like, I would call them fans. Like they cheer for her.
Hypothetical question for you, gentlemen.
Yes.
So, hypothetical question: Karen Reed walks in the future. Now, can she cash in on this celebritydom? Where does she go? Does she get a local talk show? Does she go to true crime conventions, do a seminar, get a table and sign some autographs and take some pictures for a couple of bucks? Where does this celebritydom take Karen Reed? If
it's not
she
going to
should
go
walk?
too far. It's not going to go too far. I mean, now she's a little bit different, but what was the name of the kid that in what was it, Waukesha, that was acquitted?
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Right. Okay. He tried to capitalize on celebrity and it went nowhere after being acquitted. And you know what? You're basically a pariah. I don't know. People are going to be jumping up to want to extend an olive branch and bring you in.
One second though, Al. There's a difference. Kyle Rittenhouse was. There were a lot of people who believed he was not guilty going in. There were more people after they actually saw the evidence that believed that he was not guilty also. But he did not have people at the courthouse like this cheering him on. He had some people who used it, who talked about it in political terms and that sort of thing. But it was different. It was different. It was so much different than this phenomena that is happening in Massachusetts and around the country. It is so different. Kyle Rittenhouse, they looked at as a case. There were people that hated him. There were people who they didn't. It's not that they loved him. They just believed he was not guilty. And people saw you. And in Kyle Rittenhouse, you saw everything. It was on video. It was all on video. It was how you saw the video. It was how you interpreted what was happening in our country in that moment. What was happening in the streets in that moment. This is different. Like, this is the type of case that usually doesn't garner that type of attention, but it did, and it has. I think what she does afterwards, if she's found not guilty, she will become sort of I don't want to say a spokesperson, but sort of an advocate for those who believe they are wrongfully accused. I think that's exactly the road she will take. I could see her.
Kind of a small market.
It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. I think that's part of it. I could see her. She was a professor.
Right. So she's intelligent. She's good presentation. She's attractive.
I think she was like into econ. I don't know if she's going to be a trader or something, like a day trader, if that's something that's in her expertise. I don't know. But I think she'll figure out a way to make a living for sure.
I don't think there's going to be any doubt I don't think she's going to end up on welfare, but I mean,
Right.
you know,
I don't
it's-
think she'll be shunned. I think there are people who give her opportunities, but I think the way she would embrace being found not guilty, I think would be advocacy. And I think
and that's what you do see. You do see that. You know, you do see people. You know, the Central Park alleged rapists. You know, they're out. One's now politically involved. The other one is working. With underprivileged children and victims of crime and things along that. So there is a place for them. But you don't see them on the news every day, and you don't see them, on the red carpet going to the Sundance Film Festival.
all right.
Let me ask you this about the stigma of it all. So she walks in the future, suppose she walks, and you end up meeting her, interviewing her, working with her, whatever the case may be. Even though she was she's found not guilty, in the back of your mind, are you looking at her saying to yourself, did you or didn't you? Does that stigma go? I mean, you're
Does that
supposed to be
follow
not
you?
guilty.
I think it would follow you. I think it would follow you.
I think
I
the
would
perfect example is OJ. You think anybody, was saying
That's different. That's different. Don't compare this to OJ.
no, but I'm talking about he's talking about stigma that follows you after a not guilty finding. Okay.
Right.
That's not. I'm not comparing this case to OJ, but
No,
I'm
but you can't even
comparing.
compare her to OJ either, because there were other elements involved there.
Yes,
that
I don't think he's a good example.
and it was yeah. Could we just address Anthony from Ohio, and then you can
Sure.
finish out? Vinny, how much are you paying these people on your panel for saying some bleep bleep, but then there's a bunch of those emojis? First of all, it's not a panel. These are the co-hosts of the program. But Anthony from Ohio is not buying what you're selling, Al. But can we answer the question? Did you get the check?
Yeah, the nice thing about Vinny is that he pays us in third-party post-dated out-of-state checks. So it's a very, very good thing. I haven't found a bank yet that will accept it, but I'm hoping one day to find it and be able to then cash in the multiple pennies that I've been paid with regards to this. So what is this guy talking about, for God's sakes? Get him off the air. Get him off the air.
Peel through it.
I think that's what he's saying.
He doesn't agree with what you're saying. That's what he's actually saying.
What
In
am I
a
saying
more
that's
colorful
wrong?
way.
What am I saying that's wrong?
Well,
Okay.
Al, people are going to disagree with you no matter what you say.
Yeah.
Chinua Achebe, remember, man of the people. If I could have all of you read some Swahili literature before our next session, then we can discuss that, a man of the people.
All right. Speaking of the next session, we are almost out of time here, gentlemen. You know I have to run. It's a Wednesday. It's a school day for me, or a work day. I have a show tonight, 8:00, Court TV, live, coast to coast and around the world. Closing arguments with Vinnie Politan at 8. Then Vinnie Politan investigates at 9. April Diaz, just hey to the 3 and all chatters before we go. Have a great afternoon to y'all. Have a great afternoon, April Diaz. So, Al, where can people find you?
Okay, I'm on X at Legal Weapon 3, and Monday night on Closing Arguments 8 to 9. The highest rated show on Court TV with Vinnie Politan, and Hasta la Vista, Tanginistas.
There you go. Jonesy, where can folks find the radio legend?
Well, I'm up and down the dial, so the best way is to go to the website glennjones.net, Glenn with one N, like mommy intended it to be. Don't go to the Glenn Jones Radio Facebook page because that's been inactive. Type in Glenn Jones 549 on your Facebook, because apparently there were 548 Glenn Joneses before me. Go figure.
5? Wow. We should get them all on one show.
Are they all related?
Well, this goes back like 15 years, right? So imagine how many are on there now.
How many more Glenn Joneses there are, right? Okay,
Yes.
well, thank you everyone for watching. And don't forget, you can get some of the great merch at the Vinny Originale merch shop, and the Las Tangenistas merch will be there very soon. I'm just a little bit behind. You know the story, folks. Anyhow, thank you all so much. Thank you to the Mod Squad, Gen X, Frankie Figs, Jennifer Sube, Ashley Bouchard. Thank you to you for watching, and I'll see you tonight, 8 o'clock on Court TV. Say good night, Jonesy.
Good night, Jonesy.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Thank you for all your support. We are the Tangent True Crime Podcast. We'll see all of you in court. Somebody say tangent. Tangent. Somebody say podcast. Podcast. Tangent, tangent. Podcast, podcast. This is the Tangent Podcast. Good night, everyone. Good night. Thank you for all your support. We are the Tangent True Crime Podcast. We'll see all of you in court. Somebody say tangent. Tangent. Somebody say